Hey, so I took my first actual somewhat long-ish trip in my car this last weekend. We went to go see my wife's grandmother, so my grandmother-in-law, is that the word? And it was a bit of a drive. It was long enough to where I needed to kind of plan things out and take a look and make sure that I had enough range. I've never had to worry about range before. It was my first time charging the car all the way up to the very top in trip mode. I'd never done that before. And it was the first time I'd ever used a supercharger. Never used a supercharger before. I can talk about that in just a minute. But there was something that happened when we first left that I thought is worth kind of doing a video about, because there's been a lot, well, almost all the people who have a Model 3 got their Model 3 this year. There were some early adopters and lucky people that got theirs at the end of last year. Most of them have come this year. And so now it's November, it's starting to get colder. We're starting to hear a lot of things about cold weather issues in the Model 3 and in electric cars in general. And I wouldn't even call it an issue. It was just a thing that I just kind of wanted to share and put out there. So to flip this around real quick, on the Model 3 screen, you've got this line right here. And if you don't drive a Model 3, you might not know what that means, but it's basically when you're driving, and I'll put a little video up that shows. I shot something a second ago. It's super shaky. Sorry about that. But when you are pushing down the accelerator and you're going faster, it goes into the black over here on the right, meaning that you're expending energy. And then when you let off the accelerator, automatically regenerative braking kicks in and it starts charging up the battery. And you see that by a green line going to the left. So what I noticed when I left the other day, to flip this around again, I don't remember exactly what the temperature was. It was pretty chilly. It was in the low or the mid to high 30s. And this was the first time I'd really seen any kind of real cold weather on this thing. But something that I noticed before was this. See how it's dotted right there on the end? What that basically means, I can kind of see my own reflection in the... That's funny. What that means is that the car is not fully, it's not fully charging through regenerative braking. It means that the regenerative braking is, I don't know, it's diminished a little bit. Maybe that's the right word. And I'd seen that before, maybe to the level that I just saw right there, like just past the little gear icons. But when we left the other day, for whatever reason, it was almost halfway. Like it was halfway across. So as I'm driving, and again, I'd seen that before when it had been a little bit colder in the morning. And by the way, this goes away after about 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes of driving. It gets smaller and smaller until it goes away completely. It basically just means that the car needs to warm up. The car's still warming up. That's basically what that means. And I never really noticed it making a difference in how I drive, though. And this is really the point that I'm trying to get to, is that when it was all the way down, like it was the other day when we left, the regenerative braking pretty much went away completely. And I had not experienced that before. And the reason why that matters, I mean, I suppose it matters a little bit when it comes to range, but that was not really the main issue for me. The reason it matters is because the thing that takes the most getting used to on this car is, excuse me, is the one pedal driving situation. The fact that when you let off the accelerator, the car will literally lurch forward because that regenerative braking kicks in and automatically slows the car down. It even turns on the brake lights in the back. It's not just, it's slowing down. It is literally braking as far as everybody around you is concerned. So, whereas in a regular car, in an ICE car, an internal combustion car, when you let off the gas, it just kind of keeps coasting, right? Until you hit the brake. And then that's when it slows down. This is also, by the way, why brakes last way, way, way longer in electric cars. Because I don't usually have to, if I'm pulling up at a stoplight, I don't usually have to press the brake until I'm down to like 5 to 7 miles an hour, which is awesome. But the reason this really shocked me was when all that regenerative braking was gone because of the cold. As I was driving, I let off of the gas, and at this point I'm used to the car slowing down significantly when I let off of the accelerator. But I let off the accelerator and the car just kind of kept going. It just kept coasting, and it was like, whoa, it really kind of took me by surprise. it's funny because everybody talks about the lack of an instrument cluster, having to look over at a screen to see how fast you're going, that being a big thing to get used to. That's the big adjustment in a Model 3. It took me no time to adjust to that. Turns out you really don't look at your speed that much. You really, at least here in where I live in the city or whatever, like you basically just go with the flow of traffic. You don't really pay that much attention to exactly how fast you're going. So the getting used to that was nothing. Getting used to the pedal, the feel of driving the car with the releasing of the accelerator and the regenerative braking kicking in, that is what took a long time for me to get used to. I mean, weeks for me to get used to. So when suddenly you let off the accelerator and the car just keeps going, it's a little jarring. It took me by surprise, and I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think that this little regenerative braking thing would cause it to be that. I didn't think it would affect the driving of the car. Let's just put it that way. But it did. So I wanted to make this video to kind of just talk about that. For anybody out there who is looking at getting a car, anybody who may have one. Now that we're seeing some more cold weather, this is something that's going to be happening a lot more. But I will say, it within 30 minutes of driving, it had warmed up and that dotted line had gone away and everything was fine. It was driving just like normal again. So it was just a thing that happened. It wasn't really an issue, I would say. By the way, if anybody's wondering, yes, I have sheets in my back seat. It's for the dogs. We took them to the park yesterday, and I'm doing what I can. I've got a dog protector thing for the back seat on my Christmas list, so we'll see if that shows up. But in the meantime, I've just got an old sheet back there. It's a great look. But no, so yeah, it was also the first time I'd used a supercharger. Never used that before. And I gotta say, man, I couldn't believe how fast it charged. Just a little setup. I probably could have gotten all the way home without charging. I probably would have had 30 miles or so left on the car. But we were driving through Denton, which is sort of my old stomping grounds. That's where I went to college. It's where both me and my wife both went to college. And there's a restaurant there that she wanted to eat. So we drove through there. And there's a supercharger there in Denton. It was right as we pulled into town. So I was like, you know what, why not? Let's just stop and put 50 miles in there. Just A, to do a supercharger for the first time, and B, just so that we're not worrying about getting back. Again, that was the first big-ish trip that we'd been on, and my wife especially, the whole range, she still has some range anxiety. Like it's still not something she's used to. I've actually been trying to let the car get down really low, just so I can get used to the idea of looking at the thing and seeing only 30 or 40 miles left on the charge. Just to sort of acclimate myself to that new situation. But she has not had that, so she was like, let's stop. So we pulled up with a supercharger. I'd never really done it before. I plugged in, took a second, took a little bit longer than I expected for the little green lights start flashing. That's when you know that it's charging. But once it did, again, it was a little chilly, so we jumped in the car and we just kind of sat there for a minute, and the little charging thing came up, and at home, I get like 30 miles per hour of charge, and here it was getting like 300 miles per hour of charge. So I was just watching it tick up, and I was like, wow, that is so fast. So we just hung out at the supercharger for like 10 minutes or so. And like I said, I was only going to get about 50 miles on it. And next thing I know, we've gotten like 70. We're starting to approach 80 miles. And I was like, I literally was like, well, I mean, we've got what we need if you want to go. And she's like, yeah, okay. And she's like, I'm hungry. Okay, well, let's go eat. So, we could have hung out longer. It was just like, okay, I guess we're done. And so, we unplugged, and she was like, so how do you pay for this? I'm like, well, you just have an account on Tesla. It's just like Amazon. They've got your credit card on file, and when you do it, it talks to the car, and it knows that, I had explained it all to her. And she was, I gotta say, I really did, my biggest worry was that my wife was not gonna like this car, because she hates technology, she hates computers, she hates getting a new phone and having to learn a whole new thing, when that's what this car is. I've talked about it a little bit before. And it's just so funny to me when we do something like that, and she's just like, this is so cool. Like, she just can't get over how cool it is. I wasn't expecting her to have that reaction to this car, and it's great. It makes me happy. But no, she thought that was the coolest thing in the world, and it was a a pleasant little experience. And yeah, I'm probably gonna go see my dad maybe next week after Thanksgiving, and that'll be a longer drive, and that will definitely be more of a charging up situation. But anyway, so first semi road trip under my belt on the car, and it was great. We enjoyed it. I used the autopilot quite a bit more than I ever had before, and it was awesome. I keep thinking I should be more critical of this car. I'm trying to not just be a total fanboy, but I guess I am talking about the regenerative braking issue here. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you guys. This has been too much information. If you are looking for Answers with Joe, that is my other channel. This is my vlog channel where I just kind of talk off the cuff. I always have to say this at the end. Seems to confuse a lot of people. I'm still working on trying to find a fix for that. But I'm here today. I'm at the post office right now. I'm about to drop off some Kinkerboy packages, and then I'm going to head out later to my sister in Idaho, and we're going to have Thanksgiving together. So I hope you guys all have a great Thanksgiving. And maybe I'll do something from there. Maybe I can talk my sister into being on camera. We'll see. But that is all for now. I hope you guys have a great one. Peace.